So here we are today. We're about to do the first full in-depth inspection of this hive since the winter. We did a brief inspection of it a couple of weeks ago just to make sure everything was okay and that they still had some food left in their candy board, which is still in place on the top there, as you can see. Today we're going to remove the mouse guard, de-winterize this, if you will. We'll probably be removing the candy board as well and replacing it with a standard inner and telescoping cover. And then we're going to go through each box and see what our queen looks like. So our first step is to remove the telescoping cover and the insulation that we have on the top. As you can see, the bees they appear to be in a pretty good mood today. And quite a few of them are bringing in pollen for us already. So I'm not sure there's not a leaf on a tree around here, so I'm not sure where they're finding the pollen. But that's the thing about bees, is if it's out there, they'll find it. So we're going to take off the winter cover, the candy board, and get ready with the smoker. You might want to squirt a little bit in there. Oh, so the candy, a fair amount of the candy fell off the candy board, but that's not atypical. So I'd say they ate, what, maybe between half and 2/3 of the sugar that we put in for them. So they did pretty well. Yeah. And there's not a ton of them at the top right now, which tells me that they may well still be down in the center middle box. So we winter in 3 deeps. These are 8-frame equipment. Now when we did the initial post-winter inspection, the bees at that point were in the top box and had pretty much moved out of the middle and bottom boxes. So at that time we did a partial reversal. We took the top box and swapped it with the middle box so that the middle box became the top became the middle, so that if the queen wanted to move up, she'd have somewhere to go. So at this point, what is currently the top box was the middle box. We're going to take that out of the way because right now there's really not anything going on in that box, and we'll start our inspection on the middle boxes, which is where we expect to find the queen. So Ryan's going to go ahead and take the top box off for us. How heavy is it? Not very heavy, so there's really no honey or anything in there probably at this point. And as you can see, we do have bees on top of the frames here. And we have a pollen patty that we put in there when we did the initial inspection. So we put that pollen patty on when we checked them about 2 weeks ago, and they've taken a good third of that pollen patty away already, which is indicative of the queen laying lots of eggs and them making a lot of brood, because that's when they're going to want to use that. Although they could have just taken it down and stored it, but we'll see that when we start to do our inspection. Okay, so our first frame is mostly honey. You can see there's a bee running around with a bunch of pollen on her in her pollen baskets. Looks like they're taking some of that honey out.
Oh yeah, look at them down in there. The one's got multiple sacks.
Yep.
A bit, actually.
Yeah, some of the ones out in front do as well. Okay, go ahead and put that on the rack. Alright, the next one has some capped brood, so I'm going to guess that some eggs have hatched out of that one recently if there's just a little bit of capped brood in there right now. Yeah, there we go. Just a little bit of capped brood left. I don't see any open in there. So the queen hasn't been here recently. How's it look on the other side? Ah, there we go. So there's some capped brood. Pretty good pattern. I do not see the queen. The queen in this hive is not marked. We tried to mark her last year, but it didn't really work. So at this point, we're just looking for a queen, an unmarked queen, and I do not see one at this point. So it looks like there's some open brood on that side. Yes, there's a few cells of open brood too. So, all right, go ahead and put that one back down in.
It's really light.
Okay, so here's another brood frame. Capped, I see capped. I don't really see any open at this point. But obviously she's been making bees for us. A fair amount of bees have probably hatched out and said, oh, there's the queen. There she is, right in the middle. Right there.
Really down.
Yeah, go ahead. I actually have my marking pen. We're going to try a marker while we have her.
Get me to hold that.
Okay, our unmarked queen is now a marked queen. I got her a little bit on the wings, but most of it I got on her thorax, which is what I was working for, and I didn't get any on her eyes, and that's the key. You don't want to get it on their eyes, because if you do that, that bothers the queen, and it also can bother the other bees. All right, that looks good. Let's see, are there any eggs in here? I don't know if you're going to be able to see these in the video or not. Yeah, there's some eggs. There's a few eggs down there. Not a lot, though. Oh yeah, there is. Over here, there's quite a bit over here. I don't know how well the camera's going to show that, but there's definitely eggs in there.
Yep.
All right.
Right up in here.
Yep. Okay, we're going to put this frame back in since the queen's on it. We don't want to lose her. So here's another brood frame, and you can tell by how scattered it is at this point. I'm guessing that frame was probably pretty full of brood, and a lot of those bees have hatched out recently. We're probably going to see even more of that happening soon. Oh, in fact, some of these look like they're cells that either are just being capped, or they might be, if the brood in those cells died, the workers may be opening them to pull out the bees. That if they died, they'll be pulling them out. They'll do that. That's not anything to worry about. Okay. And so we got a nice we've got a nice brood pattern on both sides of this one. Looks like it has been. Yeah, in fact, there's one that's hatching out right there. Looks like it's starting to come out.
A couple of them, it looks like.
Oh, and then here's one that started coming out and then died. See how her tongue is just hanging out and she's not moving. In fact, that first one I pointed at isn't moving either, so maybe she's dead as well. That's not unheard of, but if we see a lot of that, then we might start worrying. Note the brood in the center of this frame. The cell in the middle has a textbook example of Sacbrood, the shrunken head on the pupa. Also note that the surrounding cells, many of them have pinholes, which is indicative of the pupa having died and then outgassing, causing holes to appear, or even the nurse bees working to get the dead pupa out of the cells. So we're going to close this box up now because we've basically seen what we need to see in here. We'll actually grab the pollen patty that we had threw over on the other box, put it back on top of this one because we want to have the pollen patty near where the brood is. Excellent, press the button. And now Ryan will go ahead and take this box and set it on top of what was the top box, and we'll see if there's anything going on in the bottom box that we need to be worried about. So go ahead and move that box. That one's probably going to be heavier because it had a fair amount of honey in it. Okay, now that you've got it over there and we know the queen's in it, twist it so that there's no openings. We don't want her to fall out the bottom. Some of the bees that died over the winter that didn't fall all the way down to the bottom board. So
bunch down there too.
Yeah, we'll clean. Oh yeah, and we're going to have to clean off the bottom board as we're finishing up here. So for now, let's just set this out here and we'll brush those dead bees off before we put it back in. Yeah, I mean, we pulled this box off, I think, when we did your last inspection, but we didn't.
We took the bottom. Yeah, we took
it off.
Took the bottom off,
but we didn't go through the frames. Okay, so this one has a lot of pollen on this one, and typically they will not use pollen from a previous year, so we'll keep an eye on that frame. If they don't do anything with it, we may end up just pulling that out and cutting out the wax and letting them rebuild it. Same on this side, lots of stored pollen. Okay, there's a dead one. Nothing on it. Just a little pollen on that one, but they could reuse that one. It's only a couple years old too, so they could reuse that for some more brood if they need it. So. I expect we're gonna, I mean, we probably want to go through each frame, but we probably don't have to pull each one out. If you just separate them, see if there's any dead bees or whatever, yeah, just slide them over, and we'll just go through real quick. Look, just spend 10 or 15 seconds looking at each one to make sure there's nothing that needs.
That's what you see with
Yep.
not much on that one.
No, just keep going. Yep. Yeah, clear out any dead ones that you see. Try to knock them loose if you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little bit up here, but
Yeah, just a little bit left over.
yeah.
Yeah.
More of the same.
Yep.
A little more on that corner.
Yeah, a little bit of honey in there.
That one's all empty.
And none on the outside frame either. All right. Okay, we've seen what we need to see. So now we're going to take the bottom box, we're going to move it out of the way, and clean off whatever dead bees that died over the winter are left down here. And there's a fair amount. We actually, when we did our cursor inspection a few weeks ago, we knocked a bunch of dead bees off of this already. But the thing is we didn't pull the frames in the bottom box apart. We just left them in all together, so there could have been dead bees stuck between the frames that have subsequently fallen down. So that's why there's as many dead ones in here as there is, I think. So we'll just pick that up and we'll get rid of those. So now we'll just put the boxes back in the exact same order they were. There's no need to do any sort of reversal or anything. We're going to put the entrance reducer on with the wide opening on the, you're going to flip that around 180 degrees. There you go. And then we'll put the boxes back on. And then at this point, we will go ahead and put the regular summer winter cover back on, since we don't need the candy board anymore.
So we want that.
Put the notch down. Yep. And go ahead and put the telescoping cover back on and our weight, and we are all done. Bingo.